Hey, with your evening story channel, I post new interesting stories every day. Subscribe and click the bell to not miss it. The marvelous deeds of the Lord had always fascinated the nun Adriana. She had lived at the temple for many years. In the evenings, she liked to be alone, taking a leisurely stroll in the courtyard. She liked to look at the starry sky, because from there the Lord watches over all living creatures. In this late evening, the young woman was also walking. The weather was clear. The stars appeared in the sky, and the nun walked leisurely back to her room. She looked up at the sky and smiled. And then a real miracle happened. She saw a shooting star. Something childish in her woke up. She remembered that you should make a wish, but usually you don't have time to make a wish when the star is falling. It's like seconds. But then it was as if God heard her. The star continued to fall for a long time. Adriana froze in amazement and suddenly realized that it was not a star. It was something else. It was approaching the earth. You could already see the shape of it. For curiosity's sake, the nun ran in the direction where the object was falling. And the closer it got to the ground, the more she realized that it looked like something man-made. Then she realized that she had witnessed a UFO crash. Realizing this, Adriana stopped abruptly. If it was what she thought it was better not to go near it. But she had already gone far away from the temple, and she didn't want to go back without checking what had fallen there. Suddenly she thought that maybe someone needed help. The woman decided that nothing would happen. If she just looked, she would be careful. And if she sensed danger, she would quickly run to the village. The nun herself didn't understand why she was so drawn there. Just curiosity bordering on stupidity. But USA was pushing her there, and she convinced herself that there was someone out there who needed help. She hadn't even gotten to where she'd fallen yet, and she was already convinced that it was something in the ethereal. It was similar to what eyewitnesses describe when they see UFOs, a large saucer-shaped object, completely smooth, nothing protruding. No windows or hatches, and there was a faint humming coming from it. The woman wouldn't have paid much attention to it, would have taken it for the noise of the forest. But she looked at that plate and realized that the sound was coming from it. Adriana stood back and looked fearfully at the UFO. There were fallen trees around the fallen saucer, and there was a small depression in the ground. The woman looked at the place with annoyance. Here used to be the Earth's private clearing, and now the nun didn't know if it was safe to approach this object. What if it exploded, and then the sound stopped and the gap appeared at the bottom of the object? It quickly began to widen, and it became clear that it was a door. Adriana barely had time to hide behind a tree before someone appeared in the opening. As soon as the alien stepped out, the opening closed. The nun crossed herself. The night was clear, and it was possible to make out some details. The alien looked human, but its skin was pale. There was no hair on his head. He was thin of tall stature, probably like a basketball player similar to humans, but a little different. Something about him was different. The clothes weren't familiar either, although they're wearing all sorts of things these days. However, this alien was wearing a suit that interrupted and at the same time blended into the surroundings. At the expense of this, Adriana sometimes seemed that only the alien's head was floating in the air. The woman became uneasy. Meanwhile, the alien looked around and walked towards the village. The nun prayed that she would not be seen. She was afraid to move and was not sure that there was no one else in the spaceship. She glanced after the aliens and at the UFO. She wanted to get out of here faster and see where this alien visitor was going. Finally, she dared, and trying not to make noise, followed the alien. Only thanks to the light-colored scout, she could see where he was going. Soon he stopped, stood as if in indecision, and sat down tiredly on the ground. Now was the moment to act, the nun decided. She felt fear for her loved ones. If this creature got into the settlement, what could she do there? Though the man had nothing with him, she didn't trust him. She didn't know what technology he possessed, and it didn't even occur to her to think about her safety. She quickly came up with a plan of action, carefully removed her rag belt from her body, and made her way towards the alien, gaining her strength. The one seemed to be resting. He didn't notice anything, didn't even move, even at the moment when the woman swooped down on him, and quickly yanked it down on the man's body, thus tying his hands together. When the man looked into her eyes, she became uneasy. The alien was not resisting, and Adriana was alarmed by that. She assumed he had something against her. How else could she be so sure? But she wanted to appear brave. She didn't give away her weakness. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm trying to be as confident as possible. I need help." The man said calmly, "My ship has been wrecked. Nothing works, and I won't be able to continue my mission. Where are you from?" Did Adriana feel uncomfortable? She thought the man seemed very upset, and here she was tying him up. It even seemed silly. It wouldn't be hard for him to throw off his belt, would it? But he doesn't do anything about it. Besides, now the woman felt that this man was not dangerous, and she was sure that this man even scolded herself for mistaking him for an alien. Could aliens speak our language? There was nothing strange about this doctrine, just the skin. It was as if he hadn't seen the sun. The woman untied her belt and apologized. How would a simple nun know about modern technology? Probably testing something. "Are you hurt?" Adriana asked. "Let me call for help." "I will call yours. There's no one else here." The man smiled sadly. The nun looked at the man guiltily, then realized what was wrong with him. No, it was an alien after all. Its eyes were like glass pupils, dilating and shrinking, as if trying to focus like the old cameras. Photo cameras. Adriana took a step back, but the man stopped her. "Please listen to me," he asked. The nun decided to give the stranger a chance. She said she knew he had come from another planet, and asked for what purpose. The alien smiled and said that she was right about something. He is not like the humans living on Earth now. He knows a lot about humans, and he knows that the future of humans is bleak. Living conditions on Earth will change a lot in the future. People will spend a lot of time underground because bunkers will be set up there. And on the planet itself, the air is very polluted. People will be born with different pathologies. Adriana listened with horror to what awaits our planet. She'd asked, is nature going to change so much that people will not be able to do anything? Can't people think of anything to change the world? Of course they can. The man smiled bitterly again. It is people who will make it all happen. The nun asked how the alien knew everything. He replied that he too lived on this planet, but on a land of the future, of the very distant future. He was born like most people with pathologies. One of them is blindness. His eyes are electronic implants. He said there's probably no one else left. There's no help. He has no way back, and the ship isn't designed for that. When he boarded this machine, there were a small handful of survivors left on the ground. But they had little chance. Food supplies were running low. Clean air was running out, so he was set back in time to give Earthlings a chance. Humans had built their own future that way. People were becoming more and more violent and selfish. For years, money ruled humanity. People did not think about future generations. They only cared about their own well-being. A few. They tried to do something, but there was no strong leader to lead the people. In the end, it led to a big climate catastrophe, which was caused by humans. It seemed like they should have banded together and tried to save the planet. But people became even more embittered, and the struggle for resources began. The alien told about the unenviable future of people. He said that nations would be destroyed, and those who remained would be weakened even more. Complete extinction awaited mankind, and together with itself it would destroy the entire planet. The nun was horrified. This information must be conveyed to the people so that they would do something now. She told the alien that he had to go with her. "You think anyone will believe me?" He looked sadly at the woman. There will be a few who will think twice. But globally, nothing will change. Adriana did not understand what was the point of this man's arrival in the past. What could be changed now so that the Earth would not disappear in the future? The alien said that scientists in the future had learned to build different models of past and future development. In one of the models, they saw a completely different perspective for our planet. Unfortunately, there was little time for a more detailed study. The time machine was also of an experimental nature, but it was the only possibility and there was no other choice. According to the research, there was one man who could turn the world in the right direction. Next, the man said that this year, where he was now, it was in these coordinates that a child would be born that would change the future. This child was destined to die in infancy. The alien man says that if their calculations are correct, and if he can save the baby now, the future will be different. If the baby can be saved, there will be peace on the planet. The nun asked hopefully, "Not for a while, but when the boy grows up, he will take steps that will lead to the salvation of the entire planet." The alien had no further details. He came hoping to save this child, but he doesn't even know where he is or why he died as a baby. The only thing the scientists were able to do was to determine the time and place where the ship should arrive to try to change the future. The program could have been used to continue the calculations, but the equipment failed in the crash. The nun offered the man to go with her to the temple. He refused. He was tired and did not know what to do. He didn't want to go far from the ship. He asked just to bring water and food. The woman hurried to the temple. She was worried. She hated to believe in such a future. Would people never come to their senses? And it seemed that more and more people were turning to God. But in fact, they were becoming fewer. She, living at the temple, sees good hearts, but does not think about the fact that behind the walls of the temple people destroy their future. There was only a short ravine to the temple. Adriana could already see the silhouettes of houses, but then a pack of stray dogs caught her attention. They were fed at the temple, so they were not dangerous. But it was strange that they were near clearing. Here at night, the nuns thought of disreputable people. The locals often threw garbage into the ravine. Still, she decided to check what the dogs were interested in. As Adriana got closer, she saw a package. But it wasn't trash, it was a baby. To the nun's surprise, someone had thrown the baby into the ravine. Her heart raced. She rushed in and was relieved to see that the baby was alive. The nun crossed herself. It was good that the dogs had been fed. It's scary to imagine what hungry animals would have done to the baby. They would have torn him to pieces. The woman took the baby to the temple. They took care of him there. The police and medics arrived. When things calmed down, Adriana remembered the aliens. She took water and food and hurried into the forest. What was her surprise when she didn't find a man there? Not just he wasn't there. There wasn't even a trace of him surrounded by his flying machine. She couldn't have gotten the location wrong. After all, this land was a private clearing she remembered well. All the trees were intact there now. And the earth, not remembering Adriana, looked up at the sky. It was already daytime and the sun was shining brightly. This night she still hadn't slept. Had she really dreamed it all? She had no proof. Hardly anyone would believe her. No, not aliens. No sign of UFOs. They'd think she was crazy. They'd say she was worried about a discarded baby. And that's when the nun realized she was crying. Would this baby really change the future? I wish I could believe it. She hoped our planet had a chance. The boy's mother was never found, and he was adopted by a family of temple members. There was hope that this child would grow up to be a bright person. Thank you all for your attention, and see you again.